Welcome to War Room 2020. It's 10 February, year of our Lord 2020, live from the nation's capital, the historic Breitbart Embassy, the center place of peace of all everything in this populist nationalist Trump movement. Episode 1 of War Room 2020. 266 in a wake-up to Election Day, as we say in the Navy. Raheem Kassam, Jason Miller, the two wingmen, Stephen K. Bannon here. Got a full show today, so we're just going to get right into it. We've got, he's known as America's mayor, and I was very honored to be able to split time with him on Saturday night on the Jesse Waters World, which is one of my favorite shows. He's known as America's mayor, but I think particularly a younger generation doesn't realize, I call this guy the Elliot Ness of his generation. He's probably, as you think about it, maybe the top prosecutor in the nation's history from the Southern District of New York back in the 80s when I was right out of the Navy and Harvard and went to Wall Street. There was a specter that haunted that. That was Rudy Giuliani. He took down the five families, broke up the mob, kind of conceived the whole concept of RICO, using RICO statutes to go after bad guys, and then took on Wall Street, Ivan Boesky and the insider trading ring that had really led to a lot of people to lose confidence in the capital markets, and kind of led to the movie Wall Street, Gordon Gekko, all of that. But Rudy Giuliani was the one that put him away, and there's nobody that understands how to prosecute bad guys better than America's Mayor Rudy Giuliani, who joins us now. Mr. Mayor, thank you very much for joining Raheem, Jason, and myself today.
How are you? Nice to see you again. Talk to you again. Raheem, Jason, how are you?
Excellent, sir.
Great, thanks. Listen, Rudy, we want to get into it. You mentioned the other night, and we want to get into the details of kind of what you want to propose. But what I laid out before it was, and I was so honored, I think all of us were, to have the president tweeted out about Senator Lindsey Graham. Just the format for you to go through and to be able to present this. We've been saying, hey, we wanted a long trial. We wanted witnesses. We didn't mind having witnesses on the other side, but we wanted the whistleblower. We wanted the second whistleblower. We wanted Adam Schiff as a witness of fact. And quite frankly, we want you to have your 2 days up there with your charts, your memos. What do you think is the appropriate forum? And now you see Lindsey Graham, he's pointing fingers at Burr's Intelligence Committee. He's pointing fingers at the Senate Foreign Relations, the prestigious Senate Foreign Relations. He's talking about having John Kerry's chief of staff. It's all mumbo jumbo. Give us your thoughts on this.
Well, I mean, I guess my first priority, to be perfectly honest, is to get the Justice Department to do it, because I am convinced that there is a prosecutable case, a number of them, against Joe Biden, Hunter Biden, and maybe about 8 or 10 other people for bribery, for money laundering, for fraud. And it could expand beyond Ukraine. It could go into Iraq, where James Biden got about $250 million deal, about $250 million deal for housing that he had no experience with 4 days after Joe was named point man. It could go into China, where the Bank of China became partners with Hunter, the stepson of John Kerry, and the nephew, believe it or not, of Whitey Bulger. Boy, that would be a great case to prosecute. And I would submit that I have definite proof of bribery. And so if the Senate wants to look at it, it's up to them. I know one senator, I think Senator Burr, said, you can't rely on the witnesses from Ukraine. So I did a tweet. I don't know if I put it out yet. I did a tweet.
Breaking news.
Breaking news.
You know, Jason, I do them, and then sometimes I send them to you, and you calm them down for me. That's a secret. So I don't know what Burr is talking about. This doesn't depend on a witness from Ukraine. Joe Biden said, I pressured the president of Ukraine to fire the prosecutor. That's straight out and out bribery. It's criminal law 101. It's ridiculous. You just go read 18 U.S.C. Section 201, and anyone will see it's a direct violation. When they say that Shokin is not credible, Shokin is just saying the same thing Biden's saying.
Okay, but Mayor, hang on a second. Slow down, because this is, I got it. We got Durham's got a grand jury, and there's some things I think going on there. You coming out of the Justice Department as a prosecutor, as a U.S. attorney, Southern District, the elite of the elite, understand that, hey, this is a prosecutable case. We got evidence. You cross-examine, but for the American people to understand that that's what. Don't you think we need to have? Just like they had 8 weeks, and this is what happened when the president got his lawyers up there and was able to put the coherent defense. The air came out of the balloon at MSNBC and CNN. The thing was essentially over at that time, and that's when Collins. These people said, "I can't vote to convict this guy." Don't you need the form? Don't we need Rudy Giuliani for 2 days with his charts and his memos on national TV, like the Church Commission back in the '70s, where the whole nation is galvanized on the crime of the century, being this coup against President Trump, and then the Justice Department can take it over, and then they can hand out criminal referrals and go into the deep bowels of the justice system, which it'll take years to do that, which it should, because you want to prosecute this. But don't we need now on national TV, Lindsey Graham with his gavel, and you sitting there for 2 days with your charts, because a little bit you think sounds like a Tolstoy novel. Sounds like I got so many Ukrainian names, and I want you to be able to sit there with pictures or guys in the audience so people can understand it.
Yeah, well, Steve, now you're going to get me in trouble with all the lawyers, which is why I touched around before, like Rudy the lawyer. Now I'll tell you, Rudy the patriot, statesman, politician. Yes, this is a matter of tremendous public interest. Watergate was all revealed that way. People would be shocked at how much further it goes than just Joe Biden. So if I was up there, I would start the narrative in 2011 with a couple of other Democratic politicians. I mean, they've been making millions in the Ukrainian place since 2011. I have witnesses that will tell you that the corruption got much worse under Obama. I have charts that will. I mean, I was able to get the Italian names so people could understand Fat Tony Salerno and Sin Gigante, who walked around in his bathrobe.
Sammy the Bull. Sammy the Bull.
When they say that Shokin is unreliable, well, what was Sammy the Bull? Right? And he put Gotti in jail, didn't he?
Mr. Mayor, let me jump in real quick. So you did the media tour this weekend, pushing this. You were on Maria Bartiromo yesterday. You're on Jesse Waters Saturday night. You had two explosive documents, which, by the way, if you go to your podcast, Rudy Giuliani Common Sense, which is rudygiulianics.com, excellent podcast. Recommend everyone go to it. But you have these two explosive documents. I want to break them down and have you go into each one. You have a February 18th, 2016 notice from the Latvian government to the Ukrainian government, laying out the Burisma corruption and all that's going on. But then you have a May 3rd, 2016 memo from Alexandra Chalupa, the DNC operative, to her comms director. Take us to that notice from the Latvian government to the Ukrainian government, because this thing is so explosive.
It gives you an idea of the two different types of crimes involved here. The first crime is the bribery that we're talking about, and the money laundering. The document that you're talking about, the Latvian document to Ukraine, is smoking gun money laundering. You just need the document, case over. I mean, I'm simplifying, but I would give it to a second-year assistant U.S. attorney. It says simply that the Latvian government is notifying the Ukrainian government that Hunter Biden is under investigation for suspicious criminal activity. It then goes forward and it lists the suspicious criminal activity. $14.8 million moved from Ukraine, disguised as a loan, to the Digitex Corporation in Latvia, owned by Viktor Pinchuk, another notorious oligarch, who, by the way, donated more to the Clinton Foundation than anyone in the world. Goes in there as a loan, comes out of there to a company called Logic something. That's in Cyprus. So now we've moved from Ukraine to Latvia to Cyprus. This is all to pay board members.
Cyprus is a festering sore of money laundering. Correct. I mean, once you come from a Cyprus bank, it's time to raise an eyebrow, right?
Not unfair, Steve. I mean, maybe the top, certainly the bank of choice of Ukrainians. if you look at all of it, I mean, they laundered $20 billion out of there over 8 years, probably 15 billion. of it
Mayor, can we ask you to hold for a second? We're asking you to hold for the next segment. We want to drill down more of this. We got to jump to for a short commercial break.
Yeah.
Raheem, how do people go now? We're episode 1 on War Room 2020.
Yeah, that's right. Warroom.org still has all the pertinent information, including your televisual hits from the last couple of days, Steve. People can catch up there at warroom.org and sign up to the podcast and the newsletter.
We'll be back in a moment with the Elliot Ness of his generation, Rudy Giuliani.
War Room 2020. Bannon, Miller, Kassam. Streaming live on America's Voice. On the John Fredericks Radio Network. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Welcome back to episode 1, War Room 2020. We've got America's Mayor, Rudy Giuliani, one of the top prosecutors in the history of the nation, on the line. We also want to announce we're on FM 96.7 in Chicago and 103.9 in Schaumburg and the Chicago suburbs. I want to welcome that Chicago audience out there in the great Midwest, the city of big shoulders. And now from New York, America's Mayor. Jason, you're really triggered about this morning.
I'm fired up. No, Mayor Giuliani has been out there making the case, and too many of our leaders in the Senate, namely Lindsey Graham, just aren't doing
leaders
their job.
In quotes.
Lindsey Graham's the chairman of the Judiciary Committee. I want to see it investigated. So, Mayor, just before we went to break, you were talking about this February 18th, 2016 notice from the Latvian government to the government of Ukraine, talking about Burisma's involvement in corruption, money laundering, how Biden took bribes from the owner of Burisma, got the entire family paid off, that Hunter Biden is being investigated. Why won't Lindsey Graham and the Senate Judiciary Committee hold a hearing and investigate this?
I cannot answer the question as to why no one has investigated this, whether it's the Senate, the Justice Department, the FBI. You put this in front of a prosecutor or an investigator. They look at it and they say, if I don't investigate it, I get in trouble. I'll just read a little bit of it. It says, Burisma Holding Limited and its director, Hunter Biden, are involved in corruption affairs. I didn't make that up. It's February 18, 2016. That's the month that Shokin is fired. Maybe that had something to do with why he was fired. And then it points out that $14,665,982 plus another $366,000 in euros moved as follows: from Ukraine to Wiologic Technology in Belize. And Belize to Latvia as payments for loans.
Belize is the Cyprus of the Gulf of Mexico.
Yeah, another place I wish I had money.
They're paying their board members
Yeah.
their fees through 4 countries.
Yeah. A sunny place for shady people.
Yeah, how normal is that, Mr. Mayor? How normal is that to route it through 4
It's very
countries?
normal for criminal money laundering. That's what it is. It's criminal money laundering. Then it goes to Cyprus, another company, Digitech.
How deep into the Obama administration does this go? How endemic into the permanent political class do you think this corruption goes? When you start peeling back the layers, how deep?
The reason they did what they did, I believe now, is they know better than I do how many of them were screwing around in Ukraine. Ukraine is the biggest contributor to the Clinton Foundation. That makes no sense. Ukraine's not the richest country on earth. They donated more money than Great Britain, France, Germany. Give me a break. Victor Pinchuk is one of the biggest single contributors to the Clinton Foundation. There are ties here that involve people like Tom Donilon, the National Security Advisor for Biden, going back to 2011. Biden was at a playground where he knew his colleagues had, crookedly made money. And it wasn't the first time that Biden made money crookedly. He'd been doing it since he was a senator.
That dog-faced pony soldier.
The idea that he's honest is a joke.
Okay, Mayor, listen, they're in New Hampshire today. You've got this whole thing in Ukraine. It's got to come up. It's got to be in the DOJ. Obviously, U.S. attorneys have to get on it. Hopefully Durham somehow has got part of this. But also, this coup against President Trump, they don't have any personnel. Look, you were on the campaign with us in 2016. You rode shotgun with Jason myself from the very beginning. You know how tough it was for President Trump to win. Now they don't have any personalities up in New Hampshire that can beat him. They don't have any set of policies that can beat him. So Nancy Pelosi, I think, smartly realizes, hey, I got to take this on to destroy the guy, right, by any means necessary, because he's a clear and present danger to the Democratic Party. Don't you want also in these hearings that Senator Graham has to hold? Don't you want the whistleblower? Don't you want the second whistleblower? Don't you want Adam Schiff?
Well, now you're taking me one day ahead in what I was going to reveal tomorrow, but why not? You guys are real pals.
Only at Rudy Giuliani Common Sense, RudyGiulianiCS.com. See, we're hyping it up, Mr. Mayor.
And hold it, by the way,
but you
the
guys
big
are
reveal,
really
Bannon's
good.
going to be a guest on it very shortly on Common Sense.
This is a little bit. I'm about 80% there to prove it, but I can tell it to you because there are witnesses to it. So I think there's a possibility you may be able to do, let's use Greek, Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end. I think there may be somebody that was at the beginning and the end of the frame-up of Donald J. Trump Jr., and it might be the whistleblower. The whistleblower may very well have been involved in 2016 in a meeting in the White House, January 2016, in which I have 3 Ukrainian witnesses. 3. I know Senator Burr says you can't trust Ukrainian witnesses, but every once in a while they tell the truth.
And this is the
And every
January
once in a-
2016 meeting?
Yeah, every once in a while you can corroborate them. And I don't know why Ukrainians are any less worthy of
Hold it,
belief.
Mayor, because we only got a couple of minutes, and this is a huge scoop. You're telling us that there were 3, let me get this right. You're telling me 3 Ukrainians were in...
I'll name them for you. Andriy Teleshenko, who you can see on my podcast now. He's on there right now, explaining it. Konstantin Kulyuk, who is the Deputy Prosecutor General, and I would say the straightest guy in Ukraine, in the sense that he's been on this case from the very beginning. He's like the Kojak of this case. And a very difficult name to pronounce, Nazir Kolonitsky, who is the special prosecutor, who got turned off by the Biden corruption. The 3 of them will say that they were at the National Security Council, and 2 members of the National Security Council who represented Biden asked them basically to dig up dirt on the party of regions and any of their consultants. Well, the consultant was Manafort.
Hold
It
it.
was later clarified they wanted Manafort. And one of the people at the meeting making the request is one of the people suspected of being the whistleblower.
Okay, Mayor, we only got a minute left. You're saying this took place in the White House or in the
January
EOB?
2016.
January
There's a memo.
2016. There are 3 Ukrainians at a national
Solomon
security...
has the memo.
with the staff of the National Security Council, including what you believe...
Obama's people are asking political operatives of Ukraine to get information on the Trump campaign. It's as simple as that. And one of them may be the whistleblower who is there at the end for the phony whistleblower. I mean, it would mean that this guy for 4 years and more was consumed and obsessed with getting Trump not elected, then out of office, like Peter Strzok. And if, in fact, that conversation took place, that's the very conversation that they believed happened with Donald Trump Jr., for which they tortured him for 2 years, and nobody is investigating.
Mayor, we got to jump. We're
outrage.
going to leave the rest of those scoops for your podcast, but that's a pretty explosive scoop. By the way,
and that's why the whistleblower has to testify. There is a chance you could tie the whole conspiracy around with the whistleblower at the beginning and at the end.
and that's why Lindsey Graham at the Judiciary Committee, you need to hold the hearings there, because this is where you make that case, correct?
Yes, and it's a shame, but I don't think, at least on this Ukrainian part, nobody understands this case but me. Because nobody's taken the time to investigate it. Nobody's taken the time to talk to the Ukrainians.
Mayor, we've got to jump, but the podcast is Common Sense with Rudy Giuliani.
RudyGiulianiCS.com. The podcast, Rudy Giuliani's Common Sense. It's excellent. Download today.
Mayor, thank you so much. Honored. Huge scoops. We're going to blow this up today. We'll take a short commercial break. That was America's Mayor. Reince Preibus, former chairman, next.
War Room 2020 with Stephen K. Bannon, Jason Miller, and Raheem Kassam. On the John Fredericks Radio Network. Streaming live on America's Voice. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Also live on 96.7 in the Windy City in Chicago. That's in downtown Chicago, and also out in the suburbs of 103.9. We're now joined. We're going to get to what we just had, Rudy Giuliani. We're now joined by another stalwart of the Trump movement. You know, the Republican Party was formed in 1854 in Ripon, Wisconsin. It is the party that fought the Civil War, brought the nation together afterwards, the party of Abraham Lincoln. And in the entire history of the Republican Party from 1854, and now we have a fantastic chairman in Rana. But the longest-serving chairman in the history of the historic Republican Party, Reince Preibus, also chief of staff in the first year of the president's current term, his first term. Reince now joins us. We had Rudy on. You got Raheem and Jason here too on the first episode of War Room 2020. Reince, we wanted to have you on since it's a historic day. You and the mayor back to back, who both rode shotgun with us on the campaign. We want to talk about Lindsey Graham and get into the bottom of this coup against the president, the crime of the century. You've always been, what I love about you is you're always very even-handed. People forget that you're a great lawyer, but you're very judicious. You know, when I get a little hot and was running a little hot, you go, hey, buddy, hey, let's calm down. What do you think about this? Do we need to go in front of the Judiciary Committee and lay out? Rudy just broke some huge scoops here on the whistleblower and other aspects of this Ukrainian mess inside the Obama administration. Do you think we need public hearings on this?
Well, my position was on the impeachment, and I think you shared a similar view, is that it was better to lay it all out. And instead of just now leaving a mystery in the wake, that it would have been better to have all the witnesses, Mulvaney, Bolton, Biden, Schiff, all of it. And let's just see what the real truth is, because unfortunately, now everyone's still in their corner, and you have a huge swath of America that thinks that somehow or another President Trump had or has something to hide. And I think it's better to prove to a large group of people out there that, in fact, there wasn't anything done wrong. And in fact, if you really want to see where the wrongdoing is at, it was actually what was being hidden on the Democrat side of the aisle. And so, yeah, I've sort of come full circle on this because, yes, I am the careful one. Yes, I'm the judicious one, as you say. But I've seen enough times with President Trump that when I thought, don't do this, don't do that, you shouldn't say this, you shouldn't do that, that in fact, it turned out that he was right, and it turned out that a lot of times I was not right, and that the American people were looking for, in many cases, a big middle finger to Washington, D.C. They found it, obviously. But it also turned out that in many cases, President Trump was right. And so I think that it's worthwhile to move forward and see what's underneath all of these stones.
We just got about 2 minutes left. I know you've got stuff to do there, but I want to ask you, you were chairman for the longest time in history in the Republican Party. As you look at the Democratic Party, give people a sense of what chaos is over there right now, as someone has run a big party.
I was thinking about this before I called in. I think about there's a good chance, 20%, that the nominee for the Democrat Party is not someone that's been actually running yet. Because if you look at where we're at, only 4% of all of the delegates in the Democrat Party will be given out by the end of February. 4%. And after February, all of those remaining 96% of the delegates are only going to be awarded on a proportional basis, which means unlike the RNC, starting in March, everything is given out on a winner-take-all basis, meaning the idea of having a brokered convention in the Republican Party is really hardly possible, given the way that we've changed the rules. The Democrats are on the complete opposite side. So tonight, I would suspect, or tomorrow night, I'd suspect that Bernie Sanders is going to have a good night, and the Democrat Party is going to freak out about that. They're going to have a mixed bag. Bloomberg's going to come in on Super Tuesday. If Bloomberg doesn't immediately put himself in position on Super Tuesday, I believe you will have a brokered convention, and you do not know who the nominee is going to be. Unlikely someone that's actually running.
Reince, we got to jump. I know you're on CBS now, and I see you on Fox all the time. What's your Twitter handle? How do people follow Reince Preibus?
At Reince, Reince on Twitter, the best place.
Reince Preibus, you're a good man. Thank you very much for joining us today. A couple of big scoops there. We're going to return in a moment. We're going to talk about both Rudy and Reince on War Room 2020. Raheem, how do they get to all the news and information?
Yeah, make sure you go to warroom.org. At the top, you'll see the new Listen Live link for the New Times, and you can subscribe on the podcast.
We're going to be back in a moment live in New Hampshire when we return.
War Room 2020. Bannon, Miller, Kassam. Streaming live on America's Voice. On the John Fredericks Radio Network. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Episode 1, live from the nation's capital. We're not now yards away from where the trial of the century is going on. The trial of the century is over, done. You saw Bill Maher and the team out there in L.A., which I really want to thank everybody at the Bill Maher Show. The excellent people. But they were in the mumble tank. They admitted it. It was Trump's big 2 weeks, as I had not just a big 1 week, big 2 weeks. But I want to go. We got to get to the crime of the century. President Trump's right. It's not going to stop. They're going to be calling Bolton. They're going to be getting into his notes. And I'll start with you, Raheem. You've been uncharacteristically quiet this morning, which shows that was the benefit of having a 7-day-a-week show. Raheem had to roll out of the rack on Saturday and Sunday morning and represent. Raheem, how do you think about this? Are you in agreement with us and now Rudy and Reince Preibus that we have to go and we have to get Lindsey Graham and we have to do this in an organized effort?
Yeah, well, firstly, I want to mention to people like how big the news was that Rudy broke on air. If you missed it, if it was going a little bit too quickly, we understand. We've been going through all these documents. We fully understand. There are a lot of names. There are a lot of institutions. There are a lot of countries. There's a lot of paper trails going on there.
It's War and Peace. It's a Tolstoy novel.
Got to go back and listen again and listen again. We'll have the clips up on warroom.org after the show.
Too many Ukrainian names.
There's a lot, but it's worth listening to. If what Rudy is saying is even remotely correct about this January 2016 meeting, this is one of the biggest pieces of news in this whole crime of the century that we've heard in a very long time. So we're going to dig into that.
So what he has done, he has placed 3 Ukrainians from the Ukrainian government in the National Security Council. People should understand the National Security Council is a massive apparatus in the White House, in the EOB, in the West Wing. It's where, down below you have the highly classified rooms where the president goes and gets his National Security Council briefings. This is one thing, like for right now in the pandemic, that's where he'll be getting his briefings. But it's also a 100 to 450, depending on how many billets you staff, people with expertise in every area. You just don't have meetings with people in the National Security Council. It's not like coming in and seeing some of the political people. It's not like coming in and seeing they got the guys, Jason, the outreach people that do all the stuff, the affiliated groups, and people come in and, you have meetings over the EOB every day, which is in the White House compound.
OPL. Office of Public Liaison.
Public liaison, you're liaisoning with outside groups, and not just political groups assigned with the president, but all types of groups. So there's meetings going on. But the National Security Council, different deal. Highly classified. It's the nation's national security. And particularly, foreign nationals are not wandering in and out there. You do have meetings all day long with people from your allies. And when China comes, it's a big deal. You have that. You have South Korea. You have Australia. But you got 3 Ukrainians coming in. That's a important meeting. And people that go there are people that are cleared on not just that level of classification. The other thing people have to understand about classified information, not just is it up to the top secret and SITK and the compartmented above it because they don't want everybody to know everything, but most importantly, it's need to know. Even if you have a classification, if you don't need to be in the loop, you're not in the loop. And there's a reason for that. They don't want this information disseminated. So for Rudy Giuliani to sit there and say, hey, I think I can prove in the Obama White House, at the National Security Council, down there in the operating level, they had a meeting in January 2016, right, and talked about the region of parties, the parties of region.
Party of Regions.
Parties of Regions, which later on had the black book on Paul Manafort.
Yeah, and I want to make sure this part doesn't get glossed over because the Democrats want to point to this, to the whole CrowdStrike and the hacking of the DNC server. The real damage that was done to the Trump campaign in 2016 was they went and cooked up fake dirt on Paul Manafort, who at the time was running the Trump campaign. And he was doing consulting work, longtime consultant for the Party of Regions, Regions. Party of Regions in Ukraine is one of the political parties. And they cooked up this fake, they call it the Black Ledger.
See, they didn't know. It just so happens, for a whole set of different reasons, I stepped in on the campaign on the Saturday the 13th, Sunday the 14th, showed up and met Andy Sarabian as my first employee that I met, and then part of Jason's team, and Jason, the guys on the 15th. Paul Manafort was transitioning out, which transitioned out in a couple of days later, made that decision over that weekend. But the Clinton campaign didn't know that. The public didn't know that was happening. But that's when they dropped that ledger on him. They dropped that ledger because they thought, and it turned out to be totally phony, they thought that ledger was going to be the bomb that blew up the Trump campaign.
Right, because you had the head of the Trump campaign then being pushed out because of this phony ledger and all this this cooked book essentially that was put out there. That is a massive deal. That's a massive deal.
Oh, they thought they were going to blow up the Trump campaign because
Yes.
they didn't know Manafort was leaving for a host of other reasons on just how what our focus was. They thought that was going to be the shot below the waterline to take the Trump campaign down, take his chairman out, accuse him of working with of taking money, right, of being a corrupt guy. It turned out totally phony, and
Right.
that's turned out it's cooked. If the railhead of that is January 2016 in the White House. And by the way, we're going to get into all the whistleblower guy later. That whistleblower is a guy that you'll see has already been hinted in the Washington Post. He was somebody that we had identified early on as a bad actor when we were there in the spring of 2017. He's still one of these schmarmy guys just kind of hanging around, right? So this is a big one.
Well, I remember one of the first things you said to me back then, and I don't remember exactly the timing of it, but you said, "Oh my God, they weaponized the NSC. They politicized the NSC." It was one of the first things I remember from that whole era, and that brings us on to some of what Lindsey Graham's getting at with his methodological ways of
Lindsey Graham's
strategizing.
Lindsey Graham's listening to the show, right? He tweeted right after Rudy.
Well, I'm not sure if he's listening to the show, but he's definitely listening to the President of the United States, who's saying, Judiciary Committee, get off your you-know-what and get to business. So Lindsey just told Catherine Herridge from CBS, former Fox News, now she's at CBS. She tweets out, "Scoop, Lindsey Graham tells CBS News that he plans to deliver his FISA witness list to DOJ as early as this week. Graham says he is moving, quote-unquote, methodically, adding he hopes to begin private depositions and public hearings end of the month, early March. Hashtag FISA, hashtag Durham." Here's what we don't hear in there. What we don't hear is anything about whistleblower number 2 who disappeared, Adam Schiff, Hunter Biden, Joe Biden, getting to the bottom of this for where it truly started. That's what we don't hear. You know what? These folks can walk and chew gum at the same time. Judiciary Committee got some really smart folks. Call hearings on both. That's what we're asking. Why do you think
100%.
President Trump is tweeting on this? He wants to get to the bottom of this corruption. And what we heard today from Mayor Giuliani is explosive. That needs to happen from Judiciary Committee.
Okay, we're going to take a short commercial break. When we return, hopefully we're going to track down John Frederick somewhere in New Hampshire. I know he's still levitating because of his interview
I thought
with
it was
Tulsi.
at the Oscars.
Tulsi, he's at his Oscars. Tulsi Gabbard. We'll be back in a moment.
War Room 2020, Bannon, Miller, Kassam. Streaming live on America's Voice. On the John Fredericks Radio Network. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Episode 1. Now we got the cool music. Okay, we'll get this music sorted out. Okay, we're going live to New Hampshire very quickly. John Fredericks has finally let Tulsi Gabbard go, and now has joined us on the... John, so tell us what the feeling is up there among the... Reince Preibus said, hey, he thinks they got an enthusiasm problem. What's going on the ground live in New Hampshire?
Well, number one, the Democrats are petrified of President Trump, and one of the reasons is because they go around the state. They have huge staffs, a couple of them big ground games. They get 150, 200 people, Steve and Raheem and Jason, at an event, and they're all excited to get 225 people. President Trump sends a tweet and he's got 25,000 people coming to a New Hampshire rally tonight. I mean, it's very difficult for them to compete with this. The strategy of the Trump 2020 campaign to do these rallies, stealing some of their thunder, has really taken a toll on enthusiasm, both in Iowa and New Hampshire. But as far as in New Hampshire, it's going to be one of the most exciting Democrat primaries ever. The polls are changing so fast, Steve, you can't keep up with them. Let me tell you the big story right now. Out of the blue from nowhere, Amy Klobuchar surging in the last 24 hours. She's increased her ground game here. We're going to one of her events this afternoon in our 12 to 3 segment, talk to some of her backers. Also, Mayor Pete on the upswing. Everybody knows that. Sanders trying to hang on. He had the lead here. It's dwindling. He's trying to hang on for by his fingernails. And the other big story is we're predicting right now Joe Biden, get this, he's going to finish number 5, 5th place. He's going to be battling with Andrew with Andrew Yang for 5th place. He's slipping. His support going to Klobuchar, who we think is going to finish now, has a shot to be finished 3rd. That puts Beth Warren number 4. Biden could finish 5th tonight. I don't know how he spins that. But, the people we talked to for Pete, we were at his rally yesterday. And over, the people that are for Pete and breaking the Mayor Pete are saying they want a different vision. They want enthusiasm. They want a younger person. They want to, in his words, turn the page, because nobody knows what the other page is. But that's what they keep saying. They need a new vision. Almost kind of reminds me of the Clinton surge here in '92 after Iowa, the comeback kid. They're just looking for something different. And then there's also the hand wringing going around with the Republican Party here in New Hampshire.
John, we got a bolt, but we'll get you definitely on the show for tomorrow. Fantastic live report. I'm going to ask my 2 colleagues. We're going to do War Room Pandemic next. We're going to talk about the convergence of an oligarch and a virus is going to happen in a couple of weeks. So I asked my 2 colleagues to stay over to open the show next. I want to talk about a little politics in New Hampshire. Return in just a moment.